Today's lesson is the race to clean up PFAS.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
I'm Roger.
And we are charging forward in our race to clean up these forever chemicals that are causing all sorts of problems and will continue to cause all sorts of problems in the environment, be it the air, the soil, the land, or the water. PFAS, forever chemicals, are in lots of different products. They've been used for about 70 or 80 years, commonly in many products that we buy and use and find very convenient. But the problem is, like many types of plastic, if they get into the environment, once we stop using them and these products and we throw them away, the chemicals do not break down. They do not become harmless and just get absorbed into the soil or washed away by rivers. They cause lots of problems and they last for hundreds or thousands of years.
So yes, we can't get away from them. At least we have this problem. And in addition, we have another problem, which is plastics, which we'll talk about in some other program. But today we're going to continue learning about PFAS by answering some questions. The first question for today is, what problems can they cause? Let's try to answer this question right now.
What problems can they cause? Scientists studying PFAS are becoming increasingly concerned about their harms to human health and the environment. Studies indicate links between PFAS exposure and a range of health problems, including cancers, weakened immune systems, and hormone imbalances. Their presence in the natural environment has also been shown to have negative effects on wildlife and ecosystems.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 exposure， 它的意思是接触、暴露、揭露或是曝光的意思。例如 Travel can increase your exposure to new ideas. 旅行可以让你接触到更多新的想法。或者 To prevent skin cancer, you should try to limit your exposure time to the sun. 为了预防皮肤癌，你应该试着限制暴露在阳光下的时间。接着看到形容词 immune， 表示对疾病免疫的、有免疫力的或是不受影响的。例如 Getting plenty of sleep helps support your body's immune system. 充足的睡眠有助于支持身体的免疫系统。或是In the movie, the superhero is immune to almost every weapon. 在电影中，超级英雄对任何武器几乎都不受影响。继续看到名词 hormone， 它的意思是荷尔蒙或是激素。例如 Low levels of certain hormones can result in health issues such as weight gain. 某些荷尔蒙低落会导致健康问题，例如体重增加。也可以说When a woman becomes pregnant, the levels of hormones in her body change. 当一个女人怀孕时，她体内的荷尔蒙会发生变化。再来介绍名词 wildlife， 表示野生动物或是野生物种。我们可以说 Park visitors are reminded not to touch or feed any of the wildlife. 公园游客被提醒不要触摸或喂食任何野生动物。又或者说 We saw birds and other wildlife in the forest.我们在森林里看到了鸟类和其他野生动物。下一个看到名词 ecosystem， 它的意思是生态系统。例如 The coral reef is an important part of the marine ecosystem. 珊瑚礁是海洋生态系统重要的一部分。又或者说 Human activities have upset the balance of many ecosystems. 人类活动破坏了许多生态系统的平衡。
All right, so let's get to it. What problems can PFAS cause? Well, we already know they can cause problems by being in the environment for hundreds or thousands of years and the pollution that brings. But let's look at it a little more closely. It says scientists studying PFAS are becoming increasingly concerned about their harms to human health and the environment. Of course, no one wants to live near a garbage dump because we often know about the chemicals that might leak from the garbage into the soil, into the water, and then maybe into your drinking water. So that's bad. But even if you're using PFAS, they can still cause problems problems just around the home or wherever you might be using them. So they're learning more about this. A lot of these things take a lot of time, right? Because we use the products and then we have to wait a few generations basically to figure out how it affected people, how it affected their parents or grandparents, and how those effects might be getting worse and worse over time. And I guess they found that things are getting worse and worse over time in relation to PFAS and human and environmental health. It says studies indicate links between PFAS exposure and a range of health problems, including cancers, weakened immune systems, and hormone imbalances. Good Lord. What a list of undesirable health effects. And this is all caused because of PFAS exposure. When you're exposed to something, to use the verb form, that just means it's around you and you were there and it may have had an effect on you. You were present when it was around, okay? So radiation exposure is something that no one would really like. I mean, we all get radiation exposure, but pilots get more because they're flying on high altitudes, so the radiation from the sun for pilots and flight crews will be higher. And of course, if you ever go in for an X-ray or you work in the hospital as an X-ray technician, your exposure to radiation or X-rays and things like that will be much higher. Exposure to the sun, exposure of your skin to the sun will get your skin darker, will get you a suntan. Too much exposure to the sun might get you a sunburn, which of course is undesirable. So exposure is just being around. If something is happening or something is going on or something is present and you are there, then you have experienced exposure to that issue, to that product, or to that element.
Yep, it could be exposure to an issue, as you said. Maybe you went to university or something and you had exposure to some radical political ideas. And then you came home and then your parents weren't very happy about your new ideas and things like that because you had that kind of exposure.
Yeah, people say travel's good, right? It gives you exposure to other cultures and stuff like that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But here we're talking about exposure to this particular chemical. And if you have exposure to these chemicals, it could lead to a range of health problems. And those problems include different kinds of cancer. And it could also result in weakened immune systems. An immune system basically is your body's ability to fight off diseases. If your immune system is weakened, then you'll probably get sick more easily. And hormones, of course, are chemicals in your body secreted by various glands that control chemical balances in your body. And an imbalance means you have too much of one thing and too little of something else. And guess what? You could get sick from such a problem.
So their presence in the natural environment has also been shown to have negative effects on wildlife and ecosystems. So it's not just human health that can be affected by exposure to PFAS. The research has shown that having them in the environment, either by using them out there in the natural world or by throwing them away and having them be in garbage dumps and places like that, this has been shown to have negative effects on wildlife. Animals around them can be affected and get health problems just like humans can, and ecosystems. So wildlife is generally the animals out there, but I guess you could include plants, but generally we would think of animals out there in the environment. We often use the term flora and fauna. Flora meaning plants and flowers and trees, fauna meaning the animals that live out there among the plants and flowers and trees. So yeah, it can affect insects, birds, small mammals, large mammals, even up to humans and whales in the ocean. Who knows? But nothing is basically immune from the negative health effects of PFAS, including the entire ecosystem. So this is sort of that food web, not just the animals that hunt other animals and eat animals, but the plants that they eat, the plants they live around, the water that they live in, the ponds and rivers and lakes and streams. Basically, the natural world is affected badly by PFAS.
My goodness, it sounds like we're all doomed because these chemicals are all around us. Is there anything that can be done? Well, let's try to answer this question in the next paragraph. The question is, what is being done about this? Let's find out.
What is being done about this? Forever chemicals are a multifaceted issue, and as such, dealing with them requires a multi-pronged approach. Governments are already beginning to tighten laws around PFAS, and scientists are developing ways of removing them from water. Individuals, too, must bear some responsibility. Every one of us can take steps to reduce our PFAS exposure, for example, by choosing PFAS-free products when shopping.
Okay, so again, we've got the question, what is being done about this? Of course, we've got this big problem, PFAS, going all over the place. They're in the ecosystem. Animals are eating them. They're in the products we use. We have exposure to them. Yeah, what is being done about this? We don't want to get sick, do we? We don't want to eat food that comes from animals that consume these plastics, and then we're going to get sick too. So yeah, we need to find a solution to this problem. Forever chemicals are a multifaceted issue, and as such, dealing with them requires a multi-pronged approach. So it's not a simple problem. It's a very complicated problem. We're saying that these forever chemicals that last for a really, really long time, they are a multifaceted issue. So here, multifaceted means it has many different aspects. Look inside this word there. We've got face there, multifaceted, which means there are many faces or different aspects to this problem that we need to take into consideration. It's just not simple. We need to look at it from different angles, and we need to have a multi-pronged approach. Now, if you have a fork or a pitchfork or something like that, you've got these individual things that stick out. Those could be called prongs. And if you call something a multi-pronged approach, or if you have a multi-pronged approach, that means you have different ways of going about this problem. You have different approaches to the problem, different ways to deal with it, coming from different sectors of society, from different experts, from different economic viewpoints. There are all sorts of different ways to approach this problem.
There you go. Governments are already beginning to tighten laws around PFAS, and scientists are developing ways of removing them from water. Okay, well, those are two good steps it seems that they're taking. So they're going to tighten laws around PFAS, maybe limit how much of these chemicals can be in products or which products they can be in. Hopefully they're also spurring development into things that we can use to replace these chemicals in the future. But they're definitely going to strictly limit how much PFAS are used in products to sort of lower, hopefully over time, the number of these chemicals that end up in the environment and also the number that we are exposed to. And scientists on that, removing them from the environment, they're making good progress in removing them from water. So this is one way that they can help to clean up at least the water world, the lakes and rivers and streams, and of course the seas and oceans that PFAS might ultimately end up in. That still leaves the problem of what to do. They're in the soil or in the air, but hey, it's better than nothing. And it's as individuals too. We as people, as consumers, individuals or people, all of us, we must bear some responsibility. All of us, we're buying these products, we're throwing them away. So what can we do?
Every one of us can take steps to reduce our PFAS exposure. In other words, we can take steps or do things, take measures to stop our exposure to these chemicals. And we've got an example here. For example, we can choose PFAS-free products when shopping. So you need to educate yourself in terms of what products have these kinds of substances and which don't. And you should avoid the ones that have those substances, and you should buy the products or use the services that don't have those chemicals in them.
That's a great idea. Also, maybe encourage companies to be more open about which chemicals have PFAS and how much. Hopefully, if we have a labeling system, then we as educated and responsible consumers, then we're given the option and the knowledge and the power to choose between products with PFAS or without, and that will, of course, encourage companies to use less of it in the future. All right, we have one more paragraph to go, so let's listen to that, and then we'll be back to chat about it.
In summary, although it may feel as if a Pandora's box of problems cracked open when PFAS were created, there is reason for cautious optimism. Growing public awareness of their widespread presence and health risks has significantly sped up the search for solutions. By working together, governments, scientists, and individual consumers may yet create a future where forever chemicals no longer pose a threat.
第三部分我们看到动词 crack 指的是打开、破裂或是裂开。举例来说 The boy used a rock to crack some nuts so he could eat them. 这个男孩用一块石头敲碎了一些坚果，这样他就可以吃了。又或者说 The glass window cracked and broke into pieces. 那扇玻璃窗裂开且成了碎片。最后看到形容词 widespread， 它表示普遍的或是广泛的。我们可以说Anger at the government's inaction was widespread. 人们普遍对政府的不作为感到愤怒。也可以说 The candidate has widespread support from the older population. 这位候选人获得老年人口的广泛支持。
Okay, let's chat about the final paragraph here. It says, in summary, or to wrap things up, to sum things up, although it may feel as if a Pandora's box of problems cracked open when Pfas were created, there is reason for cautious optimism. So here we've got Pandora's box. That's from Greek mythology. This was like, I think somebody created by Zeus or something, a girl or something, and she got really curious and she opened up this box.
After being told not to.
Right. So, of course, all the evils in the world escaped from that box, and it's all her fault for all the problems we have. So now it may seem that, well, these Pfas have been around for a long time, and the problem is out there. How do we solve it now? Maybe it's too late. So it does feel as if this Pandora's box has opened. It's cracked open when they were created. Okay, so here we've got the word crack, which usually refers to that exact sound. You could hear a crack of thunder if a storm is coming, but here the box has cracked open. Basically, it has opened up and you could have heard the sound, and all those chemicals are now out into the world. What are we going to do?
Absolutely. A crack being also a small opening, right? If you have a crack in a wall or a crack in a window, that's a small opening. And so if you open something just a little bit, I opened the door a crack or something, that means I opened the door just a little bit, just to kind of peek into the room, see if your friend is still sleeping. You don't want to throw the door open and wake them up, so you open it just a little bit. So that's kind of what we mean here. So when we opened Pandora's box, just a crack or just a little bit, all the problems of the world came flooding out. So it would have been better not to open that box. It would have been better not to have invented Pfas. But of course, we can't go back in time and uninvent things. But there is reason for cautious optimism, okay? Cautious meaning careful, not too confident, but mildly careful, mildly hopeful. If you're being cautious, it just means you're taking care, or you're being careful about something. You're not charging in. You're doing it a little bit slowly just to see if it works. And what we're doing here is we're having a little bit of optimism, a little bit of hopefulness, a little bit of, hey, this is a problem, but we've got ways of solving it. We're doing good research. We're coming up with good information, and we don't think it's something like trying to get the world off oil. We don't think it's something like that, which will almost be impossible. It seems like we have reason to be hopeful, but we're not too confident. We're not saying, oh, they won't be a problem in 5 years from now. No, we're saying, well, we could make some big steps in 5 years from now if we still continue to do all this good work. And a lot of it also has to do with the public. It says growing public awareness of their widespread presence and health risks has significantly sped up the search for solutions. As I said, reaching out to the companies that use these products will push those companies to change the use of the products faster than if we just let the companies do it in their own good time. So widespread presence of PFAS is something that more people know about. Widespread just meaning they're everywhere. They're spread widely. They cover a lot of area, or they're used in a lot of things. So this isn't just something that's a concern for the airplane industry or the car industry. They only use them in a few things. No, they're used in lots of places. So they have a widespread presence in products and in our lives. And people are learning or know more about this than they did before, as well as the health risks. And all of this is basically spurring or speeding up, pushing the companies and the scientists, the researchers, to find solutions, better solutions, faster and faster.
Right. So, of course, most people were probably not too worried about it, at least until they found out that it could affect them personally. They could get sick from this stuff. So its presence all over the world and its health risks have let people know that, hey, there's something we need to do about this. And as a result, the search for solutions has sped up. It has increased in speed because lots of people are concerned about this issue now. It's affecting them personally. By working together, governments, scientists, and individual consumers may yet create a future where forever chemicals no longer pose a threat. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting little suggestion there. We should all work together. We've got individuals, we've got governments, we've got scientists, and again, individual consumers. We could all work together to create a future without these nasty chemicals, and we could all live happy and peaceful until the end of time. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到永久性化学品是个多方面的问题，因此处理它们需要多管齐下的方法。那文中用到两个带有相同字首的形容词，一个是 multifaceted 去表达多方面的多元的，另外一个是 multi-pronged 它是表达拥有多个面向的多管齐下的。那这两个单字都有相同的字首 multi， 它可以念作 multi 或者是 multi， 那可以表达是多种的或者是许多的多个的数倍的等等的意思。我们这边也补充几个带有这个字首的单字，像是 multicultural 是多元文化的， multifunctional 是多功能的， multinational 是多国的，或者是描述企业它是跨国经营的，这个字也可以当名词去表达跨国公司。还有像 multimedia 多媒体的， multipurpose 多功能的多用途的， multicolored多彩的多种色彩的，还有 multi-layered 可以表达多层的多层次的。好，再来看到课文第三部分第一句，他提到虽然 Pfas 被创造出来的时候可能感觉像是潘朵拉的问题盒子被打开了，但我们有理由抱持审慎乐观的态度。文中他用到 feel as if 去表达感觉像是怎么样怎么样，这个 as if 或者是 as though 可以引导副词子句去表达仿佛如同，那他们后面接的子句呢可以用到直说法或者是假设法。好，那我们来看一下哦，在描述事实或者是可能发生的情况时，子句是要用直说法，也就是说子句里面的时态你会照正常去变化，依据你所描述的时间而定。像是 The little girl looks as if she's about to cry 那个小女孩看起来快哭了，这有可能是事实，所以我们不用假设语气去表达。那第二个呢，在描述跟事实相反的情况时，或者是在表达某个假设情况时，子句会用到假设法。如果我们是描述与现在事实相反的情况，那么 as if 或是 as though 后面的子句会是主词加上过去式动词，或者是用 were。那么与过去事实相反的情况的话，那后面那个子句则是会用主词加上 had 加上过去分词 pp。 好，我们看两个例句。第一个例句是 Matt speaks as if he were an expert。 Matt 说话的样子仿佛他是个专家，可是事实上他不是专家嘛，所以我们用到子句是假设法，我们的 be 动词是用 were， he were an expert。 好，再看一个例句是 He looked as though he had just seen a ghost。 他看起来像是刚刚看到鬼一样，那这是在描述跟过去事实相反的情况。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Exposure. Too much exposure to the sun can damage your skin. Immune. Stress can weaken your immune system, so it's important to manage and reduce stress. Hormone. Hormone changes can affect a person's mood and energy levels. Wildlife. The national park contains a wide variety of wildlife. Ecosystem. The forest ecosystem is home to many different plants and animals. Crack.
I heard the door crack open in the middle of the night and felt a shiver down my spine.
Widespread. There is widespread support from the community for the new policy.
Discussion Starter starts now!
It's time now for our discussion starter. The question is, do you think governments or individual consumers should have greater responsibility for cleaning up forever chemicals, and why?
Governments ultimately have the greater duty to clean up PFAS, given that governments have lots of money to do research and they have the ability to make laws to limit PFAS. Of course, individuals can make choices, but I think if the government helps to give us the best choices and the healthiest choices, that will make our choices much easier.
Well, since consumers had all these demands for repelling water and repelling stains, since they have these demands in the first place, I think individual consumers should be held more responsible. If they did not have these demands, then those scientists and those governments would not have come up with these nasty chemicals. So therefore, it's up to the individual to end those chemicals.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.